Hello, I'm Kristen, also known as Voolenvine, here on my YouTube channel, on Instagram, on Ravelry, and pretty much everywhere else on the interwebs. And as always, I'm so happy that you're taking some time out of your day to chat about all the knitting, all the sewing, all the making, or whatever crafty rabbit hole I happen to be diving down this week. And it sounds like my cat wants to come inside. We have come to the end of another week of staying home. I've lost track of time completely. I don't know what month it is anymore. I don't know what day it is of the week. It feels like Friday. I think it's Friday. Is it Friday, Bella? What day of the week is it? Because I have no clue. She doesn't know. So, all right. Thanks for saying hello. But yes, I hope wherever you are in the world, I hope you're staying safe, you're continuing to stay well, and hanging in there. And I will say, in good news, New York State has officially entered phase 1 of coming out of coronavirus lockdown. And what that looks like, or what that means, I should say, is that now non-essential construction work can commence, and stores can now have curbside pickup. So really good news for us. And you know, as far as when we'll be able to enter phase 2, that's still up in the air. It's pretty much just kind of touch and go right now. But I will say that New York State was the very last state to come out of lockdown, so to speak. So yeah, that is really good news for us. Hopefully we can continue to have more good news coming down the pike. So anyway, that said, let's get into today's episode. I've got lots of knitting to share with you. I've got some sewing, but first, just a couple of announcements. Of course, we have our history make-along that's going on. It's our year-long make-along where we're knitting, sewing, embroidering, weaving, pretty much whatever your craft is, you're welcome to join in, as long as the project's inspired by something historical prior to the 1950s. It doesn't have to be historically accurate, although it can be, just as long as you can prove to me or convince me that it's somewhat related to the days of yore. And yeah, so we're having a lot of fun with that. So the way to join in is to hop on over to the Voolenvine Ravelry group, which of course is the place to be if you would like to partake in these make-alongs and join the chatter surrounding this YouTube channel. And yeah, so again, lots of inspiring projects happening in there, lots of sharing of patterns and projects that can be tackled, and yeah, it's such a great place. Well, look what we have here. Does this look familiar? Do you remember this at all? Yes, if this does look familiar to you, this is the Husbeast sweater, which I have not worked on for the past month or so. I know, I've been terrible. But I picked it up last night, believe it or not. Well, this is the finished back portion of the sweater. And then last night I picked up the front portion of the sweater, which I'm almost done knitting. Why I put this down, I have absolutely no clue. I think it was just whatever it was I was going through the past month. And again, this is the Caine sweater, a pattern designed by Martin Storey for Rowan Yarn Company. And it's just a very simple, basic raglan sweater, knit from the bottom up, knit in pieces. Generally, I like knitting my sweaters top down, in the round, whenever possible. But you know, hey, here's to trying new things. So this is where I am with it. Again, I've just started the raglan shaping at the side. It has this very simple garter stitch raglan shaping at the armhole. It's just very simple back and forth knitting, and I can just easily watch a podcast or whatever I'm watching on the YouTubes and just go. That is where I am with my Caine sweater, and I'm aiming to have this done by Dennis's birthday, which is on June 2nd. So I have plenty of time, I think. I can totally do this, you guys. If I don't have this done for his birthday, we've got some issues. So yes, that is the goal, that is the dream, and I think I will make it happen. Fingers crossed. Next up on the docket, we have my Nurtured sweater, a pattern by Andrea Mowry. And you guys, I finished both sleeves. They're done. I'm off Sleeve Island. I can now commence to Body Island. You guys, this pattern, I love it. I'm just having so much fun knitting it. It's holding my attention, and yeah, so much so that I did cast on for the body, and here is where I am with it. So making lots of progress with it, and of course I'm knitting with this charcoaly black color. The yarn is by Gilead, and I'm such a huge fan of this yarn. It's so squishy and squidgy, and it's just, it's just a joy to knit with. So anyway, yeah, so this is where I am on the body, and I have to, the pattern says to knit 8 inches up from the cast on edge, so not too much far to go. I might make it a little longer depending how I feel, because again, I'm not very used to knitting bottom up sweaters, and this one again is knit from the bottom up. I'm trying new things these days, guys. I don't know what's in the water, but you know, I'm just feeling it. So, yeah. And again, it's just a very simple slip stitch pattern. For one round, you're just knitting, and on the second round, you're doing a slip stitch pattern. And it's very simple, very intuitive, but in a very sneaky, tricky way. So if I'm not occasionally looking down to making sure that my stitches are aligned correctly, sometimes I often find that I have to tink back, which is a little bit annoying, but not terrible. So, you know, I just have to be cognizant of, you know, where my stitches are sitting, read my knitting, and make sure everything is staggered correctly, if that makes sense. But otherwise, really, really enjoying it. I'm trying to think what else I wanted to say about this, other than I think it's going to be a very versatile wardrobe staple in my handmade wardrobe. So very, very happy with it, and highly, highly recommend it. As for sewing, I don't have a finished garment to share with you this week, but I have been working on and off on 2 separate projects. It was me and Dennis's is that grammatically correct? Me and Dennis and I's 9th anniversary. It was our 9th anniversary on June 5th. I can't grammar today, guys. But anyway, yes, it was our 9th anniversary at the beginning of the month, and I was hoping to have this project done in time. However, I did run into a little bit of a wall, but I'll show you what I have so far. This is the tailor hat, a pattern by Elsewhen Millinery on Etsy. I will, of course, post a link to where you can purchase and download the pattern. It's so far really, really simple. I mean, yes and no. I'll explain in a little bit, but I have the outer shell complete, and all that I need to do is insert the lining and the grosgrain ribbon around the edge. And it's easy in that the cap is really simple to assemble, difficult with the visor bill, because I did have to harvest the plastic bill from a baseball cap that I purchased off Amazon. I know, thank you so much to everybody who recommended, you know, going to dollar stores and getting those flexible cutting mats or some other materials that you could use for a bill, but I did search high and low, but with COVID going around, I didn't want to go into too many stores unnecessarily, so I went on Amazon, bought 2 baseball caps and just harvested one of them and cut them down to size. I was a little concerned about cutting the plastic, because here you can see it is like a very hard plastic that's inside of here. But surprisingly, it required a little bit of finagling, but I used basic scissors and just, you know, outlined where I needed to cut it, and then it was, you know, the scissors cut through the plastic. So yay, that was a happy win. So I'm using 100% wool for the outer fabric, and you guys, look at that seam work right there. Everything is just so perfectly aligned. I'm really, really happy with myself. I'm really, really happy with the work that I did on this. And there's top stitching, and yeah, it just looks so nice. And then on the inside, if you're curious, this is what it looks like on the inside. Just like a really nice asterisk of sorts. I don't know. It's cool. I like it. I dig it. So right now the visor is basted on. I haven't completely stitched it down. Oh, did I? I think I did. No, it's basted down. So I want to be very careful not to put too much pressure on here. And then I just marked the center of the bill with a pin, because that's what the pattern told me to do. And there we go. So where I hit a wall was with the lining. I was running short on interfacing, and I had very little fabric to use for the lining. It was this gorgeous mushroom, it was polyester sateen, I want to say, and I messed up because the fabric itself was very shifty, and of course I messed up on ironing the interfacing to the lining fabric. It just kind of shriveled and everything. So anyway, that was a snafu. I had to cut my losses there and find backup fabric. And then in the process of ironing on the interfacing to that fabric, I ran out of interfacing. Here's what those little pieces look like. So this is the fabric that I had in my stash. It's just like a very basic, I want to say lawn fabric, black lawn that I use, but it's even lighter than lawn, I want to say, but it has like a nice little silky sheen to it. I don't know. It's lining fabric that I picked up at Affordable Fabrics. I had no idea what the fiber content is at all, but I did run out of interfacing and had to put a pause on the project until new interfacing comes. And I did order some new interfacing, and it came, but it was the wrong kind. The interfacing that I typically use for all of my garment sewing is, what is it? Heatn Bond Lightweight Non-Woven. And I ordered it from Amazon thinking that it was the same kind, but the difference was that it was just Heatn Bond Light. It wasn't lightweight non-woven, and the photo that they had on Amazon looked very similar to the one that I needed. They didn't like differentiate between the colors on the label. And long story short, I ordered the wrong type of interfacing and had to send it back. And of course they were sold out of the one that I usually go for. I usually go for a whole bolt because I am constantly using interfacing. And I didn't realize how much I rely on interfacing when it comes to sewing. I would say that this is the one material that I can't live without when it comes to sewing. And case in point, when I tried to sew something else, another garment, I realized that the waistband needed interfacing or the button band needed interfacing. Interfacing is essential when it comes to garment sewing. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are patterns out there that don't require interfacing. However, you know, yeah, if you're sewing a shirt, a skirt, or what have you, either the button stand will need interfacing, the waistband, or the facing itself will need to be reinforced with some interfacing. So yeah, if you are getting into sewing, be sure to have some good interfacing on hand. And I'll post a link below to the interfacing that I use, and you know, hopefully I'll do a little research on what other interfacings might also work. If you look at the label, if you go to, you know, your local fabric store or craft store or online craft store in this case, you know, you can, on the label, they'll tell you what that interfacing is good for. So they'll either say shirts, blouses, skirts, or jackets. You get the idea. So yeah, so now that was an interesting realization. But yes, I did find the correct interfacing that I need on fabric.com. So unfortunately not in the bolt size that I need. So I just ordered a whole bunch of packets. Each pack of interfacing comes with, I believe, about 1 or 2 yards, so I just ordered 10 for like $2 each. So that was a win, yay! Along with some other fabrics, because, you know, coronavirus. Anytime I treat myself to anything these days, I'm just blaming coronavirus. It's all coronavirus's fault that I'm just treating myself all the time. I really need to put a cap on things, seriously. So that is where I am with my tailor hat. So when I realized I couldn't complete that project, I switched gears and decided to tackle a project that I've been wanting to tackle for quite some time. And this is the Edwardian Underwear pattern by, of course, Truly Victorian Patterns. This pattern is actually 3-in-1 because it comes with a chemise and a corset cover and drawers. So the way these combinations would be worn is you would wear your chemise first, and then you would put on your corset, and then you would put your corset cover over the corset, as why it's called a corset cover, and then you'd pull on your drawers. So you would never wear the corset next to skin because, let's face it, that is very uncomfortable, and if you see that in a movie, that's completely inaccurate. And if you were to wear a corset without a chemise underneath, all your skin oils would get on that corset, and, you know, like a bra, corsets were not washed regularly, if at all. So people would wear chemises underneath their main garments so they could wash that more easily and wash their outer garments less. Because yeah, back in the day, washing machines were not a thing. So this previous weekend, I tackled the drawers. I still have to make the corset cover, but the drawers are done, and I'm not going to be able to show it to you from this angle because Edith Headless is back there, but I will insert some B-roll so you can see what I'm talking about. So the drawers are actually split pants. Looking straight on, it looks like a skirt, but haha, if you pull the legs apart, there are 2 wide holes for your legs to go in, and then a split area to make it easy to go to the bathroom if need be. I mean, yeah. So that was a fun feature to explore while sewing, but the main feature that I'm very, very happy about is the lace trim that I incorporated into this piece. I purchased this really gorgeous fabric from an Etsy seller. I believe her name is Mary, not Martha. I will link down to her below. She has a plethora of gorgeous, gorgeous laces and just trimmings, and for a really affordable price too. Not sponsored, just a huge fan of it. So I purchased this really gorgeous lace trim and lace beading. If you're not familiar with what lace beading is, it's just lace trim where you can weave ribbon in and out of, and it just makes this really pretty, dainty, kind of elegant decoration, so to speak. One new technique that I got to explore was working with insertion lace, and I've been wanting to try this for such a long time, and I literally just dove right in. However, while I'm very pleased with how it turned out, when it all came together, I realized that my placement of the insertion lace was not accurate. It doesn't look terrible, but it's certainly not aligned. It kind of overlaps with where the gathering happens in the back. I don't know why this didn't occur to me while I was actually sewing it, but the insertion lace, if you can see, actually overlaps with the gathering in the back. So I placed the insertion lace at the center of the notch at the top of the drawers all the way down to the center of the bottom of the leg, and it didn't occur to me that the gathering has to start at the at that specific notch all the way to the back. So anyway, it's not terrible, but it's not. That's just something for me to keep in mind when I make another version of these. If I really wanted to, and maybe I will do this, I can unpick all the gathers, redo the gathering, and then just have the gathers begin after the lace ends, if that makes any sense. Anyway, I'll reassess that when I finish the corset cover and everything comes together, because I am running low on a bit of lace, but we'll make it work. We shall make it work. But I hope to do a separate episode talking about Edwardian combinations and the history a little bit. I'm actually doing a little bit of research, so hopefully I'll have a fun episode for you guys on the history of Edwardian combinations. So yay! So I believe that is all the content that I have for you this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. And this is normally where I would segue into the blather segment of the podcast, where I chat about life stuff. However, I just started publishing a monthly favorites video where I'm going to endeavor to share with you things that I'm into, be it knitting patterns, sewing patterns, what I'm watching, reading, listening to. You get the idea. Which in turn kind of makes the blather segment a little bit redundant or pointless. I don't know. I was thinking that maybe something along the lines of, if you're familiar with the Heaving Bosoms podcast, this is a audio podcast that I am a huge fan of. It might not be for everyone, but if you're a fan of the romance novel genre, highly recommend it. And at the end of every episode, they share something called a lady love, which, if I had to describe it, it's basically sharing like a self-care tip, something that they're doing for themselves, a tip that you can try at home to, treat yourself just a little bit better. I don't know. But anyway, I was thinking I could do something like that, something that I'm doing to treat myself, or a self-care tip, or something that I'm doing to, make sure that I'm staying sane and happy and healthy and the like. So case in point, last week I just felt like I was on a hamster wheel between, everything that's been going on, in my life and the world. I just felt like I was on a hamster wheel, just going and going and going and going. And I'm sure I'm sure we've all been there, and I was feeling it especially last week. And I literally got to a point where I just had to cut the cord, do nothing, or not do nothing, but do what I want to do, basically. So, no work, no social media, no, anything. Just focus on one thing that I really wanted to do for myself. And apparently that was sewing a pair of Edwardian drawers. And I enjoyed every minute of it. It made me feel good, and just taking some extra time off to just completely disconnect, it just made a world of difference. Because I will say, when I did come back to, working on Monday and just getting back to things, I felt more like myself, more like Kristen. I suppose my parting tip to you this week is, if I have one, is that if you're feeling sad, down in the dumps, or completely burnt out, not like yourself, and you have the means to do so, cut yourself some slack, give yourself a break. It doesn't have to be a whole week. It could just be even just a day, just to disconnect and focus on one thing that you want to do for yourself, be it knitting on a project, casting something on, a sewing project, anything that is just gonna lift your spirits up. You will be surprised how much of a difference it will make in the long run. And you know, I can vouch for that. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did and you're new to this channel, please feel free to like and subscribe down below. I put out a video like this for your viewing pleasure every Friday or Saturday, and I've started putting out an extra bonus video every week. So if you did, like and subscribe below. Or if you'd like to support this channel, hop on over to my Patreon page where you can get bonus content such as blog posts, behind the scenes photos, and all that fun stuff. Anyway, sending you guys lots of love, happy making, happy knitting, happy sewing. That was completely in the wrong order, but you get the idea. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye!